Hello everybody, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Marie. Thank you for joining me. It is Monday morning, October 4th, and I am here chatting with you guys about the impending new moon in Libra that's going to be taking place on October 6th. So this is going to be the astro weather for the week, just giving you guys some insight into what to be expecting from this action-packed new moon. I hope everybody is doing well. We are in the thick of the Mercury Retrograde, coming in and out of the squares to Pluto. And a lot of this is, I think, the setup for getting us motivated, revolving around taking action in regards to our relationships, not just with others, but also with ourselves. So stay tuned to the end of this video. I'm going to pull cards for each and every one of the 12 signs, give you my insight and predictions as to how this new moon is going to affect you. As always, be sure to hit that bell button, like, comment, share, subscribe. Help me get my content out there to other astrology lovers. If you guys are not aware, I also offer subscriptions on the channel. If you would like to support my channel, you can get in on level 1, 2, or 3. The perks of being a member is that you're going to get shout outs. Also, if you are level 3, you're going to be a part of the group that gets one reading from me during my Friday lives monthly. So you get to choose from one reading, whether that's tarot or astrology. If you haven't checked that out, it can be a fun way to spend your Friday evenings. We do live readings on the channel at that time, and we'll pull up the charts and we'll cast the charts, and I'll answer questions about transits or natal aspects. Or you can get a 3-card reading during my tarot live. So be sure to check that out. I know those of you guys who've been asking about Mercury Retrograde, there is a new podcast episode that is out for my podcast on Midheaven Podcast that I do with my co-host, the Peace Stealer. And we go deep in talking about the aspects of this month's Mercury Retrograde and why it is a killer with the aspects to Pluto. So if you're going through it right now, be sure after you check out this video, go to my community tabs. You can see that I've got that labeled on my channel, and you can go and take a look. And yeah, it's a doozy. I still might talk about it more on this channel, we'll see, but I know you guys need some help now. All right, so let's get into this new moon in Libra. So the new moon is going to be coming in at 13 degrees. It will be on October 6, 2021 at 4:05 a.m. Pacific. That'll be 7:05 a.m. Eastern. Be sure to check your time zones and adjust accordingly. But basically, man, I've got a lot to say about this new moon. 13 degrees of Libra. We have got a new moon that is conjunct Mars. It is active, it is heated, it is explosive. Thankfully, Libra tapers the energy of Mars a little bit, and it doesn't quite have that oomph that we would usually see with Mars in a fire sign. And it gets us thinking a little bit more about how we can take action and set new intentions revolving around courage, passion, love, relationships, but also being able to find the middle ground in partnerships. And it's going to help us actually, I think, seek diplomacy. I think I've said on previous lives that I've done on the channel in the last week or two, really the best part of the astrology of October is going to be the first 2 weeks. So be mindful that with positive aspects like a new moon that's going to get us activated and motivated, with aspects to Mars and, aspects to Saturn and also to Jupiter, we see the opportunity to start talking about the future plans, how we're actively working together. So there's a lot of support, even in spite of a Mercury retrograde, to help us learn to have those difficult conversations and kind of clear the air. So whenever we're looking at a new moon, we always want to look at the planetary ruler of that particular lunation. And in this situation, it is Libra, so it's Venus. And Libra, just so you guys know, they're a cardinal air sign, so it initiates things, right? It initiates partnerships, relationships, diplomacy. It's about those one-on-one partnerships that we have with people. So it can be your boyfriend, girlfriend, marital partners, your business partners, sometimes even your clients. But equally, this can be about people who you have open conflict with. It is the 7th house. So Libra is a very active sign, and it is a masculine sign. Venus at the time of the new moon is at 28, almost 29 degrees of Scorpio. And Venus has been moving through Scorpio for about the past week or two. And really what that's brought up for a lot of us is, where have we been a little bit too afraid to be vulnerable? Where are we holding on too tightly? Where is there too much passion or fear? Maybe there can be a sense of fear of actually letting go, fear of expressing our true selves, talking about our feelings. Venus, when she's moving through the realms of Scorpio, can be very passionate, very sexy, very secretive. And so one thing that I'm seeing is as Venus comes up to the later degrees of Scorpio, it's almost like she's completing a cycle. She's gone through the underworld. She's getting ready now to, in the days ahead, move into the feisty sign of Sagittarius, where Venus seeks freedom. And that doesn't necessarily mean Venus can't commit here, okay? It just means that Venus needs freedom. She needs freedom to express herself, to roam, to travel. She becomes much more open than it's in a Jupiter sign. So there can be a sense of learning lessons and sharing knowledge and information as a result of her trek through Scorpio. Now, in the next couple of days, Venus will come into conjunction with the South Node. And so this can be a sense of releasing, letting go, separating in relationships. And I've talked about this in my previous videos. This seems to be the theme of the end of October of 2021 and even going into November. So this doesn't mean that everybody's going to separate. It more means that this month is almost like how you gauge what relationships are really made of, right? It's like going through those difficult times and how it can actually help you grow stronger in partnerships or relationships. You're really going to kind of go through those mental, emotional obstacle courses and really kind of find that you're either going to grow together or you're going to grow apart. So as she moves through into conjunction with the South Node, we may be having some sense of releasing or letting go, especially since all of these planets are still hanging out in Libra. The Sun and the Moon come into conjunction with Mars, which in itself is quite a action-packed period of time. Like I said, Mars deals with passion, courage, but it's also about arguments, war, things heating up, severing. So it's interesting when it comes into conjunction with this new moon, because it's saying really for the better part of the next 2 weeks, there's a lot of action and things taking place revolving around our relationships. Now, with all new moons, it's new opportunities, new seeds, and these seeds are being planted now, and they're going to really kind of grow over the next 6 months until it comes into the full moon that will be in Libra in the spring of 2022. So what I like about this is with the aspects of the conjunction to Mars, we get really motivated to partner with other people. We get really motivated to enter into relationships, to work on those one-on-one relationships, to get active even. And I like that it's all in this kind of sweet spot where it's in a trine to Saturn in Aquarius, which is about kind of stabilizing the overall collective. Equally a trine to Jupiter, which is about bright futures on the horizon. So this is the time. If you need to get something started, if you need to set an intention, don't worry about Mercury retrograde. Mercury is going to go back and forth over these degrees all the way until the beginning of November. So you may start to kind of formulate in this next week, okay, I'm doing this. My goal is to be able to get to this point in a relationship, or my goal is to be able to stick and commit to finding balance in my routine, or sticking and committing to a new fitness or health routine. So if you have these intentions, this is the new moon to get them moving. However, the Sun and the Moon and Mars, all in Libra, form an opposition to Chiron in Aries. And so currently, Chiron is retrograde. I feel like whenever we're having oppositions between the Sun and Chiron, there can be wounded egos. We've seen in the last couple of days, even today, as this is, being put out there on the internet, the oppositions are already happening. So when we're looking at the axis of Aries versus Libra, it's me versus us, what I'm dealing with versus what you're dealing with. And there can be a lot of projecting and projecting pain on other people, dealing with wounded issues, dealing with physical wounds. And so it's kind of digging all of this stuff up, which kind of insinuates that the next 2 weeks between now and the full moon in Aries, there is a whole lot of deep conversations and discussions that need to be had in order to kind of clear out all of the gunk in our relationships so we can get real and find that we're actually building solidly towards the future rather than having superficial connections. Superficial things can come up with Libra. It's kind of inevitable when you're dealing with that sign. But I think with the support from Saturn and Jupiter, it's saying that, you know, there's the relationships that we have that are almost out there, and I'm going to use this as an example, like social media, right? Like the relationships that are very out there, and the photo shoots and the things that people are doing to be like, okay, we're great, we're in a good place. Now, there's nothing wrong with that, but I'm sure a lot of you guys know that there can be people who kind of portray that in a very public setting, that everything's good, but really behind the scenes, the relationship is having issues. There's issues with intimacy, issues communicating, not on the same wavelength about what they're needing in the partnership, emotionally, financially, sexually. So I want you to think about this in a sense of, do I want a relationship that looks good in all appearances, or do I want a solid relationship that I know isn't always easy, but it's worth working for? And to be in a good relationship, it's not always butterflies and rainbows. Sometimes there needs to be those hard conversations where with your partner, you have to kind of have those hard truths that come out so you can level up and be on the same page. So there's something worth working towards, but certainly once we get to about the 15th on of October, and we start to see the sun and Mars and these other planets come into squares with Pluto, that's when tensions rise and things are going to bubble over. So use the sweet spot of this new moon to sit down and find the middle ground with people and be able to be super diplomatic, and how can we work together and how can we move through this to avoid some of those volcanic eruptions later in the month, because as we get into Scorpio season, it becomes less and less likely that we're going to be able to find peace. That's when we actually start seeing things turn over. So I'll talk about that as the month goes on. But watch out for those aches, pains, fears of going out on your own. Rip off the bandage and choose vulnerability if at all possible during this time. Now, Mars is getting the energy ramped up. We're seeing lots of movement for executing and initiating something. So it's really great for, getting that workout buddy. It's really great for asking that person out on a date. It's really great for scheduling that team meeting and going like, help me, help you. Like, how can we build together? But equally, Mars likes to stir the pot, and Mars can definitely be very confrontational. So you want to slow down, cool your jets, and be mindful that some people, especially those who have natal placements in Libra, equally all of the cardinal signs, anywhere from about 11 to 15 degrees, are going to be kind of hit with this energy pretty hard. But Libra, sun, moon, and risings, be mindful that you're a little testy during the time of this new moon. And there is a lot of you responding to how other people are acting. And so if there's something that you don't like, you can get irritated. Equally, if there's something that you do want and you get frustrated, it's about putting that energy into yourself and setting intentions and moving forward, and trust that other people will follow. Now, this is time to make moves, take action in how we work with others. But equally, I'm looking at probably one of the biggest aspects of this new moon, and that is the sun, moon, Mars in conjunct Uranus and Taurus. I look at that and I'm like, ah! So both of these are Venus-ruled signs, right? Venus and Taurus, or Taurus energy, is like what I possess, what I own, what's mine, what I need. And then we have all these planets in Libra. So I feel like the collective is going to experience this situation where, on a very personal level, look at where Uranus is in your chart, okay? Look at where Taurus is in your chart. It's receiving all of this push from Libra, and it's exactly 7 signs away, which represents the inconjunct or the quincunx. So really what it's saying is all these planets in Libra are having conversations with Uranus going, hey, I'm trying to work with you, let's do this together. And then Uranus in your chart is going to tell you where, on a very personal level, you need to learn to evolve, learn to let go, make changes, go in a different direction. So for this quincunx, or this inconjunct, to be happening, it's trying to reconcile this energy, right? It's trying to kind of rumble everything and get everything up and moving. The faster planets, usually in these aspects, generally win. So where in a situation an individual is acting out, kind of throwing a fit, pushing back, not wanting to change, staying still. Libra is going to come in and go, I understand that you're having a hard time. I realize this is difficult, but we got to do this together. How do we come up with a plan? So there's definitely going to be a lot going on in one-on-one relationships where we're being asked to let go of all of these things that we cling on to that we thought bring us security, right? It's the, I have to be in a relationship because being in a relationship, even if it's not healthy, is better than being alone. Libra new moon's going to smash that. Equally in relationships and partnerships, I think there's going to be a lot of conversations revolving around values and what's most important, and whether or not it's important to hold on to things, financial situations, old spending habits, and how we're breaking through that and being able to grow stronger together, and talking about where some of the things that we should be valuing the most are not even things at all. So many people in relationships are really going to learn a lot in the next month and the immediate next 6 months about our relationship with money and whether or not that is a big part of why we stay in relationships. So you'll see more of that coming later this year. The sun and moon are obviously also making aspects to, like I said, Saturn. So that's going to help us stabilize and think about the future. And making trines also to Jupiter, which is helping us collectively talk about how things look positive and optimistic, especially on a group level in the future. So that's always good to see in a new moon. Pluto is stationing direct later this day during the new moon, hours later. And later in October, we will see also Saturn and Jupiter go direct and join the gang. So all of the energies are really starting to come online for us in October. We start to see everything really kind of stabilize. And as we get to the end of the month, it's just like that train keeps chugging along, helping us figure out where we are going in the future. What to watch for during this new moon is going to be overheating, fighting, conflict, rushing around, cutting, severing, burning. Watch out for that, especially considering the fact that on both October 9th, October 12th, and October 25th, we see some very, very big aspects happening just short of this new moon. Now on the 9th, this is when Mars, the Sun, and Mercury will all conjunct, and we're gonna see Mars and Mercury cazimi with the Sun. So I feel like this new moon is kind of like the clearing that happens, and then within about 72 hours when we get to the 9th, like that's when you're probably gonna take some kind of action. And I've spoke about this on my last video, but during that transit, both Mercury and Mars are being reborn into a new cycle. So the last time we saw something similar to this, it happened in the fall of 2019, and it was in Virgo. And certainly for 2 years following that, there was a lot of discussions about health, wellness, healthcare workers. It's affected the service industry. So when we see this conjunction with the Sun and Mars and Sun and Mercury in Libra, there's going to be a lot about talking about diplomacy, laws, legislation, the legal system, whether or not people are fighting, having conflict, arguing, whether or not we're actively working together. We're going to see a lot revolving around discussions in relationships, marital relationships, and a lot of discussions, I think, revolving around finding balance. And we're going to see like laws are going to be passed very quickly, and we're going to see lots of things that are going to change relating to Libra, which can be, women's rights possibly, especially because it's a Venus-ruled sign, and whether or not we are still in control of our physical bodies. I see like the body is the moon and equally as Mars. So this is going to be something that's going to be interesting to watch in the next couple of months ahead. So when that is all reborn, it's basically setting a new cycle up. It's giving us the opportunity to take initiative. So somewhere around the 9th, just days following this new moon, you're going to go, okay, I'm starting it. I'm quitting my job. I'm calling that person up. I'm going to, give them a piece of my mind. Although I would say to you, be mindful. right? Because Mercury is still in the square to Pluto, even with the trine to Saturn and to Jupiter. You really want to think about, you know, how you come across, and you want to be like slowing your roll and really coming up with a plan before you're, you know, communicating and expressing yourself. It's going to be very challenging because a lot of people are going to be pushed into action pretty much the 6th through the 10th. So if you're coming up with something during the time of the new moon, let it kind of marinate a little bit and wait until you come into the energies of the 9th before you start actually taking action. On the 12th and the 25th of October, Mercury will return to 13 degrees of Libra. So it is retrograde now. It will cross over that again on the 12th. So you're kind of reevaluating what you said you were going to do, what you've been thinking about, what you've been planning. And then again on the 25th, when Mercury has gone direct and it's coming back into 13 degrees, it's going to give you another opportunity to launch something. So those of you guys who are a little hesitant about the retrograde, you really could wait until the 25th if you wanted to sign that contract, start that job, buy that car, you know, move into the new apartment. But be mindful that as we get into November and we're coming out of the shadow, Mercury still has one more square to Pluto. And like I said, from the second half of October on, it's a little bit more challenging to deal with other people. So be mindful of that. Work with conflict resolution, you know, relationship matters, communicating, planning the future. In the days to follow, I think we're going to see a lot of action oriented towards creating change in how we view ourselves in relationships, because you can't have a conversation with Libra without looking at the polar axis, which is Aries, and our action or our fears, especially with Chiron and Aries, our vulnerabilities and the inability to show up on a personal level. And there can be like a lot of medicine in the venom of some of these transits where other people can really incentivize us to kind of realize where we're not necessarily being a team player, and we can have lots of support from other people to push us out of our comfort zone and get us moving and shaking in being able to do more of the relationship dance, right? That's kind of how I see this. So let's take a look at my Sabian symbols and see what the Sabian symbols have to say for this particular degree. Those of you guys who are new to my channel, I love working with this book. It gives me some insight into all of the degrees for the zodiac. It is all 360 degrees of the zodiac wheel. And when I'm working with Sabian symbols, I always round up. So for example, this is 13 degrees and 24 minutes. So we're going to read 14 degrees of Libra. And I was reading this earlier and I was like, it's kind of a contradiction, but in a way it makes sense because I'll preface this before I read this. A lot of the energies that are coming up right now are just going to keep shaking out conversations or internal conversations or things that you've been thinking or having with yourself. And it's almost like when Mercury is turned retrograde, we're trying to find the words, or we're trying to figure out the best way of being able to say what we have to say and come across to other people, perhaps without hurting feelings or without, you know, coming off a little bit too strong, with fears of possibly even severing relationships. So this is an interesting Sabian symbol, to say the least, because to me it makes sense. It represents that sense of, I have something to say. Wait, I need to wait until the right time. I need to let things kind of settle out first. Okay. All right. So Libra, 14 degrees, a noon siesta. The keyword is recuperation. Taking it easy. The symbol speaks to the unconscious attunement with the universe and the achievement of a level of competence that permits occasional attention to detail and duty without worrying that things will go wrong or fall apart. The image of a noon siesta suggests rest and relaxation in a natural rhythmic sequence with work and responsibility. It's implicit in this image that the idea is that success has its rewards and that it is important to live a well-balanced life. At its highest, the symbol represents extraordinary skills in organizing and managing daily affairs of living. So you want to pay attention to the accent. It's on living a balanced life, taking care of your health. You need time to rebuild your energy, take a mental break from some things. Your greatest advantage lies in balancing work with pleasure. Learn to pace yourself, slow down, and relax. Guard against feeling guilty if you aren't being productive 24 hours a day. Don't neglect your physical and psychological needs. So stepping stones would be rest, recuperation, recovery, sleep, healing, inner reorientation, intermission, leisure, time out, right? Kind of crazy considering like all these planets are in Libra trying to initiate something with the moon and Mars. It's like, I got to get going. But I think really what it's talking about is both the opposition that we're experiencing to Chiron, where it's like, I want to get going, but I'm not ready. You know, I know I've got a whole list of things to do, but I'm not feeling so hot. I need to take a nap. Equally, it can be like, I've got people who are pushing me, trying to get me to create change, but I'm not ready yet. So the intention, I think, behind this is really this realization that all in due time, like there is some kind of magic to, almost like the Temperance card, allowing everything to kind of come together on its own terms, in its own way, right? And we can't rush the healing, and we can't rush other people. All we can do is be present with ourselves. So I think a lot of people are going to experience situations where they're also going to be like, I'm ready, aren't you ready? And not everybody is going to level up during this time. So that's what's going to be challenging, is I think that when many people have expectations in relationships that we're constantly needing to meet other people halfway, yes, that's how relationships work, but part of this moon and the next moon, the full moon in Aries, is realizing that if people aren't ready, we can't drag them along kicking and screaming. Part of being, I think, an equal partner is about being in good relationship to yourself and realizing that if people aren't ready to join you along, like I said, you either grow together or you grow apart. So part of your responsibility is also being in balance with yourself and knowing when it's time to kind of take a sidestep and go, okay, I'm not going to push so hard, or maybe they're not ready, or what have you, to really diffuse what may be bigger conflicts down the road. And equally, if you are pushing too hard in a relationship, maybe it's the universe's way of kind of saying to you, like, you don't need to push so hard. What's meant for you will find you. Stay the path and trust that, especially with the oppositions that are coming between Venus and the South Node. I'm looking at Venus move into Sagittarius. It's going to cross the South Node, conjunct Juno. So especially those of you guys who have very prominent Sagittarius placements in your chart, it can be a real magical romantic time. But Venus and Juno love each other, and they're going to be kissing in the skies soon, indicating that there is possibility for a union. However, Venus and Juno are standing in opposition to both Lilith and Ceres in Gemini. So it's almost like there's a lot of twin flame energy. There's a lot of other paths opening up. If you're constantly kind of going round and round, headbutting in certain relationships, the cosmos are basically saying, for some of you, if you take a step back and you're not pushing the river with certain people, there can be a second option that's going to open up for you, and it's going to make sense in the months ahead as to why things didn't work out with a particular business relationship, romantic relationship, friendship, partnership, marital partner. And the energies are just going to keep on keeping on for the rest of this month. Once we get into Scorpio season, that's when we actually see the transformation and the deaths and the endings and the rebirth start happening. That's what Scorpio is known for. So the sun will start to initiate that really from the 23rd on. Equally, we're going to start to see planets come into squares and oppositions between Uranus and Saturn. So this is the time to create change, ladies and gentlemen. I hope that that is helpful for you. Let's take a look at how this is going to affect each and every one of the 12 signs. Be sure to listen for your sun, moon, or rising. Specifically, my predictions are really for the rising sign first and then the sun sign. The moon sign can definitely talk a little bit about what's going on with you on an emotional level. And I want you guys to think about kind of the hot spots in your chart are definitely going to be Libra and equally also Taurus. And really look at that quincunx and that in conjunct. All right, so let's start with Aries. Aries, this energy is happening in your 7th house of partnerships and relationships, giving you the opportunity to be reborn in a sense and set new intentions revolving around relationships. Some of you guys are reflecting a lot on old relationship issues or old relationship ghosts and what needs to be cleared out. Equally, this can be a lot about partnerships that you have with people in the workplace, because Mercury rules your 6th and it's squaring off with planets in your 10th. So I could see that there can be something kind of going on there. Interesting. Two cards jumped out. So we've got the Star card, And so that is representing healing. That's also talking about Aquarius, the collective, what's going on collectively. You know, maybe you're trying to reconcile and be friends with somebody through a separation or a breakup. Maybe you're trying to heal something from the past. Maybe there's in some way, there's some kind of support coming from friends. And then the other card that came up was the 11 of Wands. Here's the thing. There is so much medicine in your friend groups for you right now that I feel like if things aren't going so hot for you in terms of your relationships, there are friends to lean on. There are parties to go to, celebrations to be had, connections to have. It's almost like you're learning to fill your cup in other ways and not just rely on what's going on with the relationships. There can be friends that want to introduce you to people. Equally, friends can become lovers, or lovers can become friends. So there can be something that's going on there. But if you are thinking a lot about relationships, marriage, the future of where you're going with your relationships, it makes sense with that 4 of Wands. It can be saying, I got to clear up all of this stuff so that way I can actually really partner with people and really kind of achieve the goals that I have for the future of my partnerships. So that is possible. Look for Aquarians to help you out. All right, Taurus, for you, this is your 6th house, which deals with your day-to-day routines, your health, your pets, coworkers, your workspace. It can even be about your diet. Ironically, it's Libra, so it's talking a lot about, you know, are you being influenced by your partner in terms of your health or wellness? Do you guys need to get on the same page about how you're eating or your daily routines? Are you clearing out an old relationship from the past? That can be the case because the 6th house can represent clearing out old relationships and old relationship patterning before you move into the future. Some of you guys will adopt a new health routine or a new dietary routine. Look to do this with another person because it'll be easier if you are doing it together, Libra, rather than by yourself. And it's a good time to kind of like clean out your closets or clean out your office or clean out anything that's just like messy. Oh, positive. So you've got 10 of Cups. So this is basically talking about finding happiness, finding joy, being able to get to the next level emotionally. You know, this is like the happily ever after card. So it is saying if you have any spats, if there's anything that's going on in terms of relationship issues, inner office issues, problems that are going on also with your schedule. A lot of Tauruses are having issues with their schedule because it's the 6th house of Libra of, you know, not always being on the same page in terms of when you're going to work or when you're doing things with a partner. It looks like all is going to be well. Try to keep the overall happiness of the relationship in mind, that there needs to be some kind of a balance. It's challenging for you, Taurus. You've got Uranus in your sign, and so you're kind of acting out a little bit this month. So if you have a Libra or somebody who has a Libra placement in your life, they're basically going to remind you, like, listen, we don't need to have conflict. We need to focus on being able to kind of have harmony and peace in our partnership or our relationship. Try to think of the bigger picture. All will be well. All right, so for Gemini and Gemini rising, this is your 5th house. So a new moon revolving around your personal self-expression, creativity, love, romance, dating, children can be a really magical time for those of you guys who are seeking a new romantic partner or you're initiating and starting new creative projects. Equally, those of you guys, Gemini or Gemini rising, who are thinking about trying to get pregnant or having children, this can be a really excellent time for you. I get the Knight of Coins. So this can be talking about you really being cautious in how you go about investing your time or your energy or your money into creative projects. For those of you guys who are meeting new people, there can be an earth sign that comes into your life this month. It can be somebody who's tall, dark, and handsome, a little shy, a little cautious, a little slow, but taking their time because they're kind of weighing out all of their options and trying to get to know you. If this is about an investment in a personal project, it's saying be really mindful of your budget, what you're spending. You don't need to put a lot of money into anything right now. I do think it's also talking a lot about possibly even maybe like a trip, right? Because you've got Aquarius in your 9th. So I'm wondering, are you getting to know somebody? Is it taking time? Are you planning on going to see them? Is there like a little bit of a back and forth and kind of being like, okay, how can we schedule some kind of a trip together, or going back and seeing each other? And it involves travel. So overall, it looks positive for you, Gemini. For Cancer and Cancer rising, this is your 4th house. And this deals with your home, your roots, the past, your legacy. It can also deal a lot with your family, where you're physically living. This is some intense energy for Cancer risings, because I could see it being like this do-si-do dance that you're doing, where you're like, am I moving or am I not moving? Am I moving in with my partner? Am I not moving in with my partner? A lot of pressure that's like, do I sign the lease? Are we going to make it? What's happening? Because you've got a lot of action between your 4th house, and equally, you've got a lot of action in your 7th house of relationships, where Pluto is showing you whether or not this person in your life is ready for change, if they're ready for commitment. So let's see what the cards have to say. Okay, so the card that I get is the 6 of Swords. This is about movement, but this is about being in limbo. I'm going to tell you guys something, especially Cancer risings. If you're in this situation, you need to be really careful, because down the road here in a couple months time, when we get to Venus in Capricorn and there is a Venus retrograde and it's squaring off with some of these same degrees, it's almost like some of you guys benefit waiting another 6 weeks before you really make a change or you really make a move. You know, rushing into signing a lease, moving in with somebody too soon, you know, picking up and moving across town or moving across the country for them. Ultimatums in where you're living can be very intense. This does say that you're in limbo. It does look like a move is coming, but it looks to me like you need to be on the same page with your partner and make sure that you guys are both on kind of the same wavelength in terms of the direction of where the relationship is going. Some of you guys are looking at making big changes in your career and really uprooting yourselves to really facilitate living with a partner, and you need to make sure that they're meeting you halfway. Maybe smart to wait another 6 months before you make a move, but it does look like it's inevitable. For Leo and Leo rising, this is a new moon in your 3rd house of communication, information, gadgets, siblings, short distance trips. So it's a very active time for you. The card that I get is the 4 of Swords. So it's kind of funny, because this is going to have you wanting to rush to like have the conversation, make the phone call, send the email. And I think this is saying slow your roll. Be careful and take your time. There seems to be a need for you to rest a little bit or recuperate a little bit. I also could see this being as a result of the harsh angles that are going on in your chart between, you know, where Libra is, the 3rd house and the 10th house. It's like almost there can be like some conflict between communications and coworkers or work. There could be some conflict between travel and also work. You could be super exhausted this next, you know, 2-week period. You could find that it's harder for you to kind of slow down, but it wants you to slow down. It wants you to think about things before you initiate some of those conversations. Keep in mind, there is going to be a full moon that's going to be happening pretty soon, and that's going to be in Aries, which is a sister sign for you. It's better for you to be taking action in about 4 weeks' time or later at the end of October, and you need to sleep on some things or think about some things before you have some conversations. Be careful with driving. Be careful with sending that unintentional text message or email. Make sure you're checking all of your outgoing stuff, because you could accidentally send something that could go to the wrong person and create some sense of falling out or lack of communication with somebody because you were half asleep and sent it to the wrong person. So be careful with that. All right, so Virgo and Virgo rising, this is your 2nd house. Your mind's on your money and your money's on your mind. And there can be you contemplating a larger purchase, or there can be some sense of you setting intentions for the kind of abundance or the kind of money that you do wish to bring in. Libra being in your 2nd house is the money that other people give you and how you base your value system off of other people. So if you want more, you have to believe you're worth more. Watch your spending. Watch what's going on with your spending habits. Realize that there is a need for you to start kind of getting this in balance if you would like to get ahead. So assessing how you're spending money, assessing also right now your budget and coming up with a budget and sticking to it and paying off debt and paying stuff down is a good way to go. 8 of Wands. So there's action. You're like, I'm doing it, right? I'm making the purchase. Keep the receipts, baby. That's my best advice to you. Keep the receipts. Really watch what's coming in and what's going out, because with Mars and the sun and the moon all being in your 2nd house, you could be like making that impulse buy. but you're not really aware of the consequences until a couple weeks later, and you're like, oh my goodness, like I'm going to be paying this off for a long period of time. So really think about it, but realize that what you're spending money on may actually be travel. I think about the quincunx to Taurus that's in your ninth, and that you're pulling the trigger and you're buying a car, you're pulling the trigger and you're going on a month-long trip, or you're signing up for that, course that you have to go and take in another city. So I do see it bringing in more money eventually, but I feel like you might have to spend a little bit of money to make money this month. All right, so Libra and Libra rising, you are pretty much the star of this. This is your new moon. Realize that there's some stuff going on with you right now where I feel like if you're frustrated, then you need to stop complaining about it and you just need to make changes. So whether this is frustrations with your physical body, with your appearance, if this is frustrations with your relationships to other people, the card that jumped out was the Devil. So I see this as like you being entangled in situations that you don't want to be entangled anymore. This is a card that talks about Saturn, or it talks about Capricorn. So I think that, Saturn's in Aquarius. It's saying, okay, Libra, what makes you happy? How can you focus on happiness? How can you break free and cut some of these cords and kind of disconnect from people, situations, bad habits that you keep falling into? Unfortunately, you are blessed with Mars and the Moon in your sign, so it's basically saying you're going to be super feisty really for like the better part of the next immediate 2 weeks, but you're focusing on self goals and what you need to do for yourself over the next 6 months to find happiness. A lot of this deals also with Capricorn, which is your 4th house, which is your family. So it's almost like you're clearing out family karma, you're clearing out family problems, you're clearing out domestic issues, you're clearing out fears. The other cards that popped up were the Strength card and the 9 of Coins with this. So it's saying like you're afraid of asking for what you want. You're afraid of standing up for your own happiness. You're afraid of going out on your own. Don't be afraid. Keep pushing past fear and focus on the overarching theme, which is your joy. And you might have to offend a few people in the process of standing up for yourself. Be mindful of how you use that energy, okay? For Scorpio and Scorpio risings, this is a more challenging place for you this month. You guys want to pay attention. You're coming into the shadow. It will be your birthday season soon. Until then, happy birthday, Libra. But Scorpio, it'll be your birthday soon enough. And this is kind of the cosmic clearing that happens every year right before your birthday. And Libra is 12 signs away from you. So it represents your 12th house, or what you do not see, what is deep and subconscious. Having Libra there with an inconjunct or a quincunx to Uranus in your 7th tells me relationships are moving forward for you, and there is a need for you to move and shake and get with the program of these changes in relationships. For those of you guys who are partnered and you're not happy, or you haven't been happy, it's releasing the fear of being alone or the old relationship patterns so you can embrace the new you or new partnerships. For those of you guys who are in relationships but you're afraid of taking things to the next level, or there's a lot changing in your life in relationships, it's basically saying you have to let those old subconscious fears or old relationship patterns or old karmic things no longer hold you back, so you can move in a healthy manner into the next step. So a lot of Scorpio rising are dealing with ghosts from the past. 3 of Cups. This was kind of the same as last month. It's this can be joy and happiness overall, celebration, but 3 of Cups also can be an energy that talks about 3 people. It's like a love triangle. So it's like you've got a situation that allows you to move forward. You've got a situation that keeps you in the past, or maybe you're weighing things out. You're going back and forth and it's hard for you to like let go of somebody, or you're thinking a lot about another person, or there's a third party that kind of gets in the mix, either with you or with a partner. So be mindful of this, because it's basically warning you and letting you know you can't bring both of these people into the future. So whether you're still dancing with somebody from the past or you're thinking about it, it needs to be dealt with and it needs to be reconciled now, so you can completely break free and move into this new state of relationships, whatever that may be. In the end, it's positive. There's a celebration coming. It can be a party, it can be an engagement, it can be a wedding, but there needs to be like this clearing that happens, so that way you can confidently move into the future. All right, for Sag and Sag Rising, this is your 11th house. It deals with your goals, your hopes, your dreams. This can be more of a fun new moon because it gives you the opportunity to spend a lot of time with your friends, going to parties. Suddenly you could meet somebody or connect with somebody romantically this way because it's Libra in your 11th house. Friends from the past can come back. You want to watch out for miscommunications in friendships. That can definitely be a theme that's happening. But all in all, you know, the opposition and the aspects that it's having in your chart is, are you making enough time for your friends? Or are you partying too much and celebrating too much? Is it having an effect on your health and your wellness? Has it thrown your schedule off a little bit? Has it thrown your diet off a little bit? That's something else to watch for. Page of Coins. I see this as like celebrating and being around friends and talking about what your intentions are, and this can be networking and talking about new business opportunities or new investment opportunities. Equally, you're probably sharing with other people some of the changes that you've made either in your health or your wellness, your self-care, your diet, and you're really investing in that. There can be new opportunities, work though, that come from some of your friends. So it's like you just sharing this idea. A friend can be like, I've got the perfect person, or I want to invest in that. Like, let's talk about that. So you've got some really great ideas that are kind of blossoming, but you might want to wait until later in the month, especially when Venus really moves into Sag, before you start kind of initiating some of this. But you've got something very good that's on the horizon. For Capricorn and Cap Rising, this is your 10th house. Lots of changes in terms of your relationships, your career, who you're working for, where you're working, how you want to be seen out in the world. Lots of Cap Risings are having big changes, not only in their titles, but you know, there's some of you guys that are going from I was an employee to now I'm a manager, or I was working for someone else, now I'm my own boss. I was married, now I'm not. The card that comes up for you guys is the Hierophant. So you're setting new intentions revolving around your career, but how you're leveling up and being seen as like, you know, the big dog in the pack, right? It's like you're pulling bigger projects, you're doing bigger gigs, you're being seen as like the person that people go to, like the guru, the go-to person for insight. So you're being seen as somebody who's more professional, or you're really leveling up. Equally, we can't talk about Libra without marriage, and we can't talk about the Hierophant without marriage. So there can be some partnering that's going on, or thinking about partnering, or finding somebody who is like the perfect power person to join with you on a professional level. Or equally through work, you might end up meeting somebody who can be major spouse material. Especially with like a Mercury retrograde going through there, I can't help but feel like there's some cosmic things happening in your career that's leading you to people who are more on your level. Be mindful of how you communicate with other people, and be sure to let your guard down, because other people want to support you. You're just not aware of it. All right. So now we've got Aquarius, which is your 9th house. So this deals with the higher mind, education, distant journeys. It can also deal with legal stuff. It can deal with relationships, partners at a distance, somebody who reaches out to you from the past, but they live in another place now. You considering going back to a teaching or an educating gig, returning to a program, returning to a place, or booking a trip to somewhere that you've been to before. For that, we've got the Hangman. So you're kind of like, do I do it? Do I not do it? Am I ready? Am I not ready? The Hangman talks about kind of being in a state of suspension and needing to turn inward and really reflect. As with a lot of these placements in the skies with this new moon, it's all about asking your heart what your heart thinks and how your heart feels, and checking in with your heart first. That's the sun, the ego, before you make any moves. It seems to me like something's telling you like, I'm not so sure about this person, or I'm not so sure about going on this trip, or maybe it's not the right time. With a Mercury retrograde here, there can be lots of miscommunications, things that have not been fully told to you or shown to you. And equally, you want to be really careful with trips and make sure you get trip insurance if you're planning something. There can be some hiccups, there can be some bags that go missing. Make sure everything's tagged and you triple check all your reservations. But this card is saying, turn inward, think about it, don't make any moves. Now is not the time yet. Pay attention to your intuition and pay attention to your dreams, because something can come through here that can show you the opening and the truth as to what is really going on. And last but not least, we have Pisces, and this is your 8th house, Pisces. To me, it seems like you are doing a detox, a clearing. You are focusing more on working with your debt or your money that's owed to you, handling a tax issue, resolving something that deals with healing old relationship wounds, healing from a death, or releasing or letting go. Focusing on trying to bring in more stability, security, money, support, sex, intimacy. This part of your chart deals with all of the darker sides of things and where you karmically get affected by your partners. Page of Pentacles, again. So new opportunities, coming up with financial plans. This can also equally be talking about there's a goal in mind. So the goal is to be financially stronger, to be healthier, to eat healthier, to focus more on supporting yourself. Pages can also be a representation of children. So the 8th house can also talk about the goal. If the goal is pregnancy, it's how is my body? How am I feeling? How am I eating? How are my finances? What am I working towards to be able to, bring that in? This could even be an earth sign that comes into your life that offers you some kind of opportunity to help improve your financial situation. So if you're also somebody seeking a loan, or you're seeking some kind of financial support, or somebody who's going to give you some insight into what to do with your money, how to invest your money, this can be a really great time to do so. Be mindful, though, that there are squares that are going on to Pluto and Capricorn. So you really want to be mindful that you're not jumping into something. You're not jumping into a money-making scheme. Don't invest any money that you're not willing to potentially lose. This is saying be careful and be a little bit more just cautious with how much money you put into something. This is a smaller amount. This isn't like taking all the savings and investing it into a stock. This is taking a little bit and putting it here, and taking a little bit and putting it there, and seeing what things do. So be conservative with your financial transactions this month, and careful with who you lend money to. All right, guys, I hope that was helpful for you. I am wishing you a very happy and easygoing new moon in Libra. You'll have to let me know in the comments below where Libra is in your chart, how you're using this energy to incentivize yourself to come up with new ways of relating to other people. If you like my reading style and you'd like to book a reading with me, check out my links below. Check out my website at beyondtheveiledtarot.com. I've got some openings for the month of October, booking into November right now. Pretty much October through January is the busiest time for me. So if you've got a new moon birthday happening, happy birthday, great time to get a reading. If you're one of those cardinal signs anywhere between 11 and 15 degrees, sun, moon, or rising, definitely a good time to get a reading as well. My sessions are a combination of intuitive tarot along with clairvoyant readings and Western evolutionary astrology. I look at charts, I look at synastry, composite charts. We can do solar returns, progress charts, and also picking dates and doing election astrology if you're looking at the best time to launch a business, start a business, the best time to get married, move, relocate. You name it, I can do it. Check out my links below if you want to follow my social media and see what I'm doing on a day-to-day basis. And don't forget to check out the Midheaven podcast, where we put out pretty much an episode every week about current events. And it's a little bit more fun and kind of sassy that I do with the Peace Dealer. So if you're looking for insight into the Mercury Retrograde, be sure to check that out. This Friday, we're going to be doing my live readings in the evening, and we're doing astrology. So make sure that you stay tuned. We're going to be putting those dates out pretty soon, but it'll be Friday evening, and I'll put a link out a couple days before so you can reserve your space in line. For those quick questions, if you want to ask me something about your chart, I am happy to answer that for you. All right, guys, next week we'll be back talking about the astro weather and everything that's going on as a result of whatever happens with the transits this week. I will see all of you guys very soon. Have a happy week ahead and a happy new moon. Take care.